Hello, good evening. Welcome to Monday's Look North. Our top story tonight. Major projects to improve road and rail links in our region are put on hold as costs soar. Inflation, Brexit and the war in Ukraine have been blamed for the delays. Also tonight, water pouring through cookers, pipes, even lampposts. Hundreds of people in Sheffield spend a third day without gas after a pipe burst.
We've all had to huddle round, keep everyone warm. It's been hard, but we've got through it.
My mum put us in, me and my sister, in her room so we can both stay warm.
Joy for England fans after a 3-0 win against Senegal. We've been to a former club of one Yorkshire player. And real or fake? I've been finding out the most environmentally friendly type of Christmas tree.
Sunshine and showers across many parts of our region today, but much colder weather is on its way. Join me for that week ahead forecast.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Monday's programme. Look North has learned that plans for dozens of transport schemes in West Yorkshire have been put on hold due to rising costs. West Yorkshire Combined Authority says projects worth £270 million that councils had hoped to start working on will be paused. It will affect 42 schemes, including road widening projects, park and ride schemes, railway station redevelopments and an ambitious proposal to build an inland port in Leeds. Inflation, the impact of Brexit and the war in Ukraine are all being blamed. Here's our transport correspondent, Spencer Stokes.
So much of what we spend money on is rising in price. Food, fuel and energy have all seen big increases. And it's not just consumers watching their wallets. Local councils are faced with soaring costs, so infrastructure projects are being scaled back or put on hold. This was the £10 million hope for Halifax Station. New buildings, a replacement bridge, landscaping and better access for cyclists and pedestrians. But it's one of around 40 West Yorkshire projects that's now being paused. For the foreseeable future, the rather drab exterior will have to wait for funding.
I think it's frustrating for everybody. When we knew we'd got inflation back at more than 10%, we knew that some of these schemes were going to be at risk, particularly the schemes that, although they'd been planned, actually hadn't started to use bricks and mortar.
The on-hold list runs to a total of £270 million. From large schemes like Halifax Station Gateway to £54,000 for Owl Lane in Wakefield. The money saved will ease immediate pressures on other budgets. West Yorkshire Combined Authority blame record levels of inflation, the knock-on effects of Brexit, the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. And they say we have worked to identify schemes that can be paused and delivered over a longer time period. But some of the decisions have been welcomed. A scheme to widen the A629 in Huddersfield is paused, meaning 130 trees get a stay of execution.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm really pleased that it's been paused. There was significant objections about the scheme, not just from the community, but also from organisations like the Woodland Trust, who are very worried about the damage to the trees at the junction. I would hope that it wouldn't come back in the same form. I think there is still investment needed in Huddersfield, particularly to improve walking, cycling and public transport.
Another project that's been paused is the Leeds Inland Port. It would have allowed goods to be shipped to Leeds, removing lorries from roads and reducing carbon emissions. Beyond West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire Combined Authority say all their schemes are under continual review and there could be some reprioritisation. For the second time in just over a decade, purse strings are being tightened and spending on infrastructure is slowing down. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North.
Spencer is with us now. These schemes aren't cancelled, they're just delayed, aren't they, Spencer? What sort of length of time are we talking?
Yes, realistically, I think we're looking at something like a decade. Many of them were a few years off work starting anyway, so the process is going to become much longer. But as you say, West Yorkshire Combined Authority are reiterating they're not cancelled, it is a pause. They're going to try and get more funding from the government for some of them. They say we'll be holding government to account over how these plans will be funded. So they're showing ambition to do that there. And that funding process for local councils and for mayors may get easier in the future under a Labour government, because Labour have announced today that if they come to power, they're going to give councils more powers to raise revenue to fund transport and infrastructure schemes. They say local government should be given more capacity to generate its own revenue with new fiscal powers. This is a big policy announcement. It's all part of Labour's devolution agenda, moving policy and powers from London to regions and cities. Keir Starmer was here in Leeds to announce it, along with the former Labour Prime Minister, Gordon Brown. Let's hear from them.
You could almost sum up the government's Levelling Up project as sitting in London with a pot of money, inviting people to bid into the pot and then to decide along government lines who's going to get any money. I think that's completely wrong. We've got to be brave enough to put the money there as well.
In recent years, as you all know, an unreformed centre has been exposed as out of date, out of touch with local needs, out of its depths when it tries to micromanage local events, and all too often out of control.
So has the government responded to what Labour's plans would be?
Yeah, the Conservative Party are very sceptical. They say whilst we, the government, are tackling inflation and helping every household with the cost of living, Labour's answer is a review by a defeated former Prime Minister that won't help anyone. Now, the Centre for Cities, an organisation that supports devolution, have welcomed this today. They say giving local policymakers the powers they need to boost transport and industry will be essential to drive regional economic growth. I think it's also interesting when you compare with many European countries, even Labour's proposal doesn't go as far as those nations, and we'll still see many things like health and education still centred on London rather than in cities and regions.
Spencer, I'm sure we'll be coming back to this time and time again. Thank you. Next night, engineers have been working to restore gas supplies to more than 1,000 properties in Sheffield after water from a burst pipe leaked into the gas main. Several homes in the Stannington area saw water gushing from gas meters and cookers late on Friday night. Hannah Gray is in Sheffield for us. Hannah, bring us up to date with what's happening.
Yes, it's pretty chilly here tonight in Stannington, and there are hundreds of families who don't have heating. All weekend and today they haven't had any cooking facilities. Some of them haven't had any hot water either. Now, as you said, a water pipe burst and that water flooded into the local gas network, and there are some dramatic pictures that you'll see in a moment. There are about 100 engineers. You might be able to see some of them around me now. They're working all around the clock, day and night, to try and fix this issue. And in the meantime, there's been a community centre set up here. You can come, it's at the Lomas Hall, you can come and get a heater most importantly, and also advice and support. The local community are being resilient and they want to stay calm and carry on.
There was panic in several homes in Stannington at the weekend when water started gushing out of gas meters and cookers. There was even water seen erupting out of lampposts on the streets.
On here is tone. Can you write that word for me?
These children shivered all weekend in homes without heat, and now they've had to wrap up warm for school too.
We've all had to be resilient because I've got a little brother, just a newborn. So we've all had to huddle round, keep everyone warm. It's been hard, but we've got through it.
My mum put us in, me and my sister, in her room so we can both stay warm, and she's put a heat blanket underneath the mattress.
I sit next to the fire with blankets on, and my dog usually sits next to me, so she's very warm.
The head teacher consulted with the local authorities throughout the weekend and decided it was right to open the school today, making sure there were electric heaters in all the classrooms.
The local community had a really difficult weekend, a very challenging time, Been talking to some of them at the gate this morning, parents and carers who've been telling me how badly they've been affected. So, our hearts go out to them, we empathise with what they're going through. We serve this community and we want to support them and see them through a difficult time.
Across the area, Cadent engineers have been working around the clock.
We're still investigating the cause of the incident with our colleagues at Yorkshire Water. It's fair to say that there is a lot of water in our system. We're understanding exactly where that water is at this moment in time, and we're pumping out as fast as we can and as quickly as possible. Since Saturday, we've pumped over 200,000 litres of water out of our gas network, and we're working as safely and as quickly as possible to restore supplies.
Families here will be anxious to know how long this will take, but the engineers say it's a big job and the work will continue over the coming days.
Yes, Yorkshire Water have sent us a statement. They say that they apologise for the impact that this has had on the people here, and they understand just how difficult it must have been. They say the burst water main is now fixed and they're continuing to work closely with Cadent to provide additional support. The families here, though, just hope and pray that their heating will be back on well before Christmas.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thank you, Hannah, especially as the weather's plunging, isn't it? Thanks, Hannah. Next tonight, Look North has been given exclusive access to a new police operation tackling violence in Leeds city centre. Project Spotlight uses plainclothes officers and officers in uniform to watch for anyone behaving suspiciously in busy areas. It's been called a UK first and was set up to try and predict who might go on to commit a crime. Here's our Home Affairs correspondent, Emma Glasby.
Yeah, they were just walking with some purpose down Duncan Street and all got face coverings on. Just wonder if the plainclothes officers could just follow and observe.
A new operation that police say will help keep people safe in Leeds at night. Project Spotlight uses uniformed officers and plainclothes officers to watch for suspicious behaviour.
Yeah, if uniform want to hold off for a second, just let the plainclothes do their work.
If they think something is suspicious, they look at how people react to officers in uniform.
Yeah, chasing on foot.
This group sprints off.
If you run, mate, that's what happens, isn't it? Well, if you run from police, what do you expect?
Nothing is found after a quick search, so the group moves on. But watching from a nearby bench, plainclothes officers have spotted another group.
I'm putting one of them through the police systems. He's come back as having previously carried weapons and be part of an urban street gang. So the plainclothes officers are just going to follow and keep an eye on them. They've not been searched at this stage or anything like that.
Police say it's about making the streets safer, tackling the supply of drugs, the carrying of weapons, but also trying to keep women and girls safe.
Do you feel safe in Leeds city centre at night?
No.
Why not?
Because people follow you.
You've had people follow you?
Yeah. I've had people follow me, harass me, everything.
I never felt like I'm not safe or really not, but I guess it's city centre normally is safer.
It definitely feels worse for women. Like a lot of my friends that are girls would never walk in the city centre.
The stories that she said when she's alone,
yeah,
it kind of makes me think I'll come out and meet you. Like if she comes from the station, I'll come and meet her, things like that, because there's quite a concern, I think.
Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to Project Spotlight.
West Yorkshire Police says Spotlight is unique in the way it analyses behaviour. The force claims it can help prevent crimes like sexual offences happening.
How can you tell who might be going on to commit a crime?
Yeah, well, I can imagine it's extremely difficult, and I don't think it's been done before, and this is why we're trying to really develop something that's new and different. But what we do is we look at the behaviour of people and look at the changes in people's behaviour. So we kind of put officers into spaces, and then we'll see if there's an adverse reaction to our presence, and actually we're starting to see some real significant results from that.
If police decide it's working, it will start being used in other parts of West Yorkshire too in the weeks ahead.
Emma's in Leeds for us this evening. Emma, how unique is this scheme, and is it a controversial approach?
Well, West Yorkshire Police has described Spotlight as the first of its kind for a police force and says it's been working with academics on this. But yes, concerns are being raised about the project. The human rights group Liberty has said today in a statement that judging people's reactions to uniformed officers is not an accurate base for suspicion. It says there are many reasons why people might react in a certain way, experiences with police brutality and violence in the past, and the general lack of trust in the police forces are just a few of them, it says. The statement goes on that police operations like Spotlight are rarely evidence-based, are routinely abused, and will likely lead to marginalised groups being subject to surveillance and harassment. Now, West Yorkshire Police says Spotlight has led to a number of arrests for drugs offences after plainclothes officers were approached by people offering to sell them drugs. The force also argues that crime rates in Leeds noticeably fell where Spotlight patrols had taken place.
Emma, thank you. OK, let's bring you some news in brief now. The former Wakefield MP Imran Ahmed Khan has lost his appeal against a conviction for sexual assault of a 15-year-old boy. Khan was jailed for 18 months in May after being found guilty of assaulting the boy at a party in Staffordshire in 2008. Today, a senior judge said he had no doubt the trial was fair and the conviction was safe. The Deputy Director for Health Protection in Yorkshire says parents should be vigilant for symptoms of infections caused by Strep A. His advice comes after 7 children across the UK are thought to have died from conditions caused by the bacteria over the past few weeks. Dr Mike Gent says while serious cases are rare, there are a number of things to look out for.
There have been cases, small numbers of invasive illness right across the patch. So it's really for everybody to be looking out for this severe form of the infection. As I say, scarlet fever, sore throat and a rash. But if children have a very high temperature, which isn't responsive to Calpol, etc., have cold hands, cold feet, in a warm environment, obviously, or if they're very drowsy and not drinking, then that would be a sign of perhaps severe infection. And that's when you really need to seek medical attention.
So those are some of the signs to look out for. We'll have more on this story in Look North tomorrow. We'll be speaking to an expert about Strep A. If you've got a question or concern, then please do get in touch with us. Email look.north@bbc.co.uk, or you can send us a message on Facebook. That's BBC Yorkshire. A rare species of crayfish thought to be extinct have been rediscovered in Yorkshire. The white-clawed crayfish has been found in a watercourse near Ludden Foot. Now anglers and members of the public are being asked to take extra care to protect them. Phil Bodmer has more.
By the banks of Ludden Brook, deep in the Calder Valley, a band of conservationists are looking out for a rare species.
So hopefully today's purpose is to confirm that there is a population here and that it's healthy.
They're seeking out the UK's native freshwater white-clawed crayfish, last seen 7 years ago and feared in danger of extinction.
White-clawed crayfish at a national scale are declining and have been for the last sort of 50 years, really. Nationally very scarce, so finding a population up here in Yorkshire is really, really good news to reconfirm that population still exists.
It's not long before the team find what they're looking for. It's a welcome lift to a project called Reviving Calderdale's Rivers.
So I'm just going to gently lift it out. So this is a native white-clawed crayfish. So the reason they have the name the white-clawed crayfish is because the colour of the underside of the claws. So if we just flip her over, we can see here that they have this sort of creamy, pale white colour to the underside of the claw.
The species is at risk from the larger and more aggressive American signal crayfish, which competes for food and spreads a fungal disease known as crayfish plague, which is fatal.
Now you may wonder why this matters. The reason is the white-clawed crayfish loves clean water. They also help keep our waterways like this clean, and they provide an important food source for other native species like eels and otters.
So Ellie, just explain the importance of this man-made weir.
So what it is with this particular weir is that we've found that the invasive signal crayfish, which carry the crayfish plague, are actually stopped by this weir.
Visitors to local watercourses along the River Ludd are being asked to check, clean and dry clothing and equipment to to avoid transferring the plague and risking harm to the white claw population.
If there is one single signal crayfish that has the crayfish plague, it can wipe out an entire population of white claw crayfish. It's 100% fatality to the white claw crayfish. So that's one of the reasons that we do stress the importance of clean, check and dry, which is the biosecurity procedure that takes place for most river users. So an angler or a kayaker should hopefully be doing the check, clean, dry before entering into a different watercourse.
If left undisturbed and protected, it's hoped the white claws will thrive once again, playing their part in the ecosystem that helps produce this precious habitat. Phil Bodmer, BBC Look North, in the Calder Valley.
Did you watch the match last night? If you didn't, I'm sure you've heard about it. England are through to the quarter-finals of the World Cup. Tanya's here. It was a pretty comfortable win last night, wasn't it?
In the end, I think for all England fans, the first 35 minutes was a little bit edge-of-the-seat stuff, and the Yorkshire wall at the back was showing the odd little crack here and there. But once they scored the first goal, which was a beautiful move, this was the reaction to the first goal. So we don't seem to have that at the moment, but we're filming at Penistone FC. This was the first goal going in. They were a little bit nervous before all of that, but that was the first goal, and once they'd won it 3-0, they were very happy fans.
Great result in the end. I was a bit nervous to start with, but to be fair, we need to play with a bit higher tempo at the start. But then after that, we were fine, weren't we? It was comfortable in the end.
It's what I expected, and it's what I called, to be fair. England were always going to win this game as long as they played right, and they did really well.
Senegal were a difficult opposition. We've taken them to the cleaners tonight, and onwards and upwards for the England boys.
I think they just said voices, don't you, for next week, because it's France up next.
Yes, now that is going to be a big test, and it is going to be a very, very big test for that Yorkshire wall at the back, particularly for Kyle Walker, because he's got one Kylian Mbappe up against him, who is, let's face it, probably the best player in the world at the moment. Interestingly, Josh Warrington is boxing next Saturday night, and they're going to start the undercard. They're going to stop at 7 o'clock, play the England game on the screen, then finish the card. God knows what time Josh Warrington comes out, but can you imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like for him if England have won and then he goes on to defend his world title? It'll be absolute carnage, I should think, at Leeds Arena.
Absolutely.
Well, elsewhere, just a couple of wins for our teams over the weekend. Barnsley on Friday night had a great win over fellow promotion chasing Peterborough. A moment of brilliance from Luca Connell gave them the lead. The home side equalised, but with a little help from the goalkeeper, Barnsley's Adam Phillips made it 2-1. They're fourth in League One behind Sheffield Wednesday, who drew 0-0 with Derby. And in League Two, it was a huge win for Harrogate Town against fellow relegation strugglers Rochdale. They went in level at the break thanks to a lovely goal from George Thompson, and then went on to dominate the second half, scoring another 3 goals to win it 4-1. It gives them a bit of breathing space over the bottom two and over Rochdale, who are a place below them. That, Amy, is your sport.
Thank you. Put your tree up yet?
No.
No? Do you reel it or fake it?
We fake it now. We used to reel it, but we fake it now, and I appear to be sitting in a forest now.
Yeah, you are in a forest, off you go. Do you reel it or do you fake it? It's that annual debate, isn't it? What should you do? Go for a real tree or a fake tree? Which is better for the environment? Well, tree growers say their plantations provide habitats for birds and other wildlife. But do wildlife conservationists agree with us? Agree with cutting down a tree every Christmas? I've been to York to find out more. It's not just Santa that's busy at this time of year. At York Christmas Trees in Wigginton, it takes 12 months to prepare for the festive season.
Christmas tree growing's become a full-time job. We never have a quiet month. We plant about 20,000 trees a year. This year we'll be hoping to harvest 12,000.
It takes 10 years to grow a 6-foot Christmas tree that we enjoy for just a few weeks. But a new study has found there are huge benefits to wildlife during the growing process. Ollie's was one of 19 plantations across the country that took part in the research.
We suspected there was a lot of wildlife. We're learning that there's actually far more than we thought. Large species you commonly see, but it was particularly the smaller birds that it showed up. So we had linnets, meadow pipits, chaffinches, bullfinches, yellowhammers. We often see long-tailed tits, and then he'd also seen roe deer, hares and rabbits.
The study, funded by the British Tree Christmas Growers Association, was led by grower and researcher Colin Palmer, an ornithologist from Newcastle and Harper University.
We wanted to see
what sort of habitat it was for birds. We wanted to see what sort of habitat it was for animals. And finally, we wanted to look at insect populations. We found that the ground is alive with ground beetles.
On this farm, 22 different varieties of birds were found living amongst the Christmas trees, as well as mammals and a huge variety of insects. Now, you may be wondering what happens to them all once these trees are ready for the chop.
It's a good question. Yes, we do cut them down, but please remember, for every tree we cut down, we replant 2, and we've got to have a sustainable business. So we're actually planting more than we're cutting down every year.
This research was carried out by tree growers, and not everyone shares their enthusiasm for the findings.
While it's great that these plantations are doing some good for wildlife, they are not a replacement for our native woodland. If people already have an artificial tree, then just keep using that year after year, because if you already own one, that's the most sustainable choice you can make.
Last year, 8 million households in the UK chose a real tree. It seems they're still a popular choice for people as well as wildlife. Is yours up yet?
I nearly got it up on Sunday, but so I've got a plastic one which I've used for 8 years now, which I think is probably more environmentally friendly, isn't it?
Well, who knows?
Shall I show you a couple of pictures? We've got a big cold plunge coming this week, the first northerly of the season. That was, well, it sums beautifully up the weather we've had today. That's in Silsden, just outside Keighley. And this is, I love this one, very atmospheric one. This is just in front of the wind farm there up in South Yorkshire. Keep the pictures coming in on Twitter, Instagram and on the Weather Watcher website. So the headline for tomorrow is not too bad. There'll be some sunshine around, also a scattering of showers, mainly in eastern areas, but the cold is on its way. Tuesday night into Wednesday, a proper run of northerlies. Actually, for much of our region, it means a lot of sunshine by day, sharp frosts at night, but there is a risk of a few sleet and snow showers, mainly in coastal areas. Now, these lines of clouds are sort of streets of showers that have continued to push in all day long, and it's been wet at times actually towards the coast, but they will become more isolated overnight and largely confined to coastal areas. And I think certainly inland, just watch out for ice on untreated surfaces. We're looking at temperatures around freezing point. That's 32 Fahrenheit. Tomorrow's high water times then in Filey at 2:41 and again at 3:15. So it's a bright day tomorrow, plenty of sunshine. I think western areas largely dry. There you can see the distribution of showers always to the east of the A1, up the Vale of Pickering, North York Moors and along the coast. But even here, they will become more isolated through the day. Temperatures around 6 Celsius in Leeds. That's 43 degrees Fahrenheit. So the further outlook, the general thrust is for cold, but quite sunny actually. If you like that type of weather, I do. It's very nice, wrap up warm, sharp frosts at night, and just a hint that we could have a few sleet and snow showers, mainly towards the coast. That's the forecast.
It's feeling Christmassy, isn't it, in the air?
A little bit. It will do from Wednesday.
Oh, I think I might go home and put my decorations up. I think it's time.
Yeah.
I may peak too soon. That's it from us. Corinne's here with the late news. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.